remember that 2 weeks ago I told you the story about my experience in Kamakya when literally I heard the goddess tell me everything is me. I am everything. I am everything you see, everything you taste and touch and feel. I am everything you think. I am everything you are. I am everything. And I tried to extend on that notion last week by talking about how as we grow up and then we grow inwardly, increasingly we will experience, diversity. We'll experience different kinds of people, different kinds of places, different kinds of everything, and deeply different. And the usual human response to diversity is, rejection. When I grew up, if all brown people were automatically on the fast track to the basement. And if you weren't Catholic, irrespective of anything, you were going to hell. And, as I grew up and I appreciated, everything I experienced, it made me understand that I had something to learn from everything, and it was really important for me to learn it. And I've tried in my life. I've tried, based on the understanding that has come later from my practice, that every living being is an expression, an effect of the goddess, the one livingness that is the essence of the whole. And automatically deserves respect. Well, the next step is and that's been quite a while ago now, when we lived in Cambridge, I read a book I can't remember exactly the title, but it was something like The Man Who Mistook His Hat for a Cat. His wife for a hat? Okay. So in that Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat, in that book, it talks about, first of all, a phenomenon where a steel rod got shot through some guy's skull and he lived. And he could manage some cognitive experience, and other things were completely confusing to him. The whole net of the book is that the body and the mind are not two separate things. They are completely and totally one thing. And this is really this is a big contrast to all the religions. Christianity teaches us that, there is a life beyond the body and the mind that's someplace else, and it's either very pleasurable or it's very painful. Even Buddhism and Vedanta will say, the body is an illusion, there is something beyond the mind even, and that is cognitive, some form of cognition. In other words, enlightenment exists way beyond the body and the mind. But reading this book, I really came to the conclusion that in a world in which everything is the goddess, enlightenment, liberation can only be experienced through the body-mind. That's how we experience everything. And there is no such thing as, a heaven out there or anything out there. There is no such thing as, a transcendence of the body. There is no such thing as the body as the source of sin or impurity or anything else. The body is what we have. The body-mind is what we have. And so, one of the things that's really different about my teaching than most every place else is that, as far as I'm concerned, our work is to fully embrace, fully embody, fully connect to this body and its energetic underpinnings, to fully explore this mind, to fully open to ourselves completely as we are right now in this moment, every moment that we live. Transcendence is not going to a happy place. That happy place doesn't exist. Transcendence is seeing so deeply into ourselves that we understand the total interconnectedness of all physiological form and function as an expression of the vibrancy of consciousness itself, which is the goddess. Becoming fully and completely present. Now, ordinary religions teach us, because this world is Kirschblut. I can sort of go along with that. And we need to go beyond this world. Ordinary religion teaches us the body is a problem. Our culture teaches us that we're here to avoid pain and look for something, beyond. But personally, I have a whole different perspective on this story. I think, and it is my practice and my work, to fully inhabit my body, to fully experience the two parts of, there are two simple parts of it that we can say: pleasure and pain. Pleasure leads to joy, leads to beauty. The experience of even the vision into this extraordinary symmetry that is present throughout the whole of our being and the ultimate reality. Experience the extraordinary brilliance of the one life that everything we see is an effect of. The one life that underpins all of our lives and all of life on earth and everywhere else. Coming into our body, experiencing pleasure. And this idea also comes from the Krama tradition of the tantric tradition of the Krama, tantric revelation of the Krama, that it is pleasure that brings us into contact with the subtle structures that continue to drive our mind outward. Pleasure brings us into contact with that, and it is pleasure that begins to allow us to see the wholeness and to dissolve those subtle structures that keep our mind going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth into the world. that keeps us continuously externally, keeps all our energy externally rotated and entangled in ordinary existence. But coming back, having this experience of pleasure, joy, beauty, that dissolves those structures, as they dissolve, that's painful. This total change in us, in our body, mind, is painful. And we have to understand, and this is the most important part of the talk, that the pain that we experience in our life is not caused by something outside us, especially for us, because we are working to bring our awareness more deeply into ourselves. We're looking to see to our own source. We're trying to connect to the inner vitality within us that has expressed our life and facilitate the growth and expression of that most profound of creative energies, which is, the essence of all respiratory process. Bringing our attention inside, beginning to stop suppressing and denying all the circumstances that cause us pain, and to open ourselves and accept that pain, understanding that everything is the goddess, and so there is no outside that we can blame and react to for the pain that we feel. We can only hold the space of absolute openness and allow the pain that we experience to change us. Over the last few weeks, it's been incredibly painful, I have to say. And I pray through all this painful experience that not just me, but millions of people are passing through. Through this experience, I understand something deeply in me is profoundly changing. And this is the blessing of the goddess. And I have to understand that in this change, it's not like there's lessons, there's change. And in this change, by accepting this pain and holding space with it, holding my awareness with it, allowing it to do its thing without fighting it, without going crazy, without blaming somebody else, without doing anything except breathing and accepting, I will be completely transformed yet again and ultimately living ever more deeply in contact with the creative source of my existence, which is what the hell I'm doing here in the first place. And what everybody on the planet is supposed to be doing. In the teaching of the Krama tradition, but also in the teaching of Dzogchen in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, you come to a place that is described as an aspect of the highest dimension of experience, and that is called the place of equal flavor. Equal flavor. We come to a place, finally, where pleasure and pain and all of the different varieties of sensory experience that drive both pleasure and pain are one taste. Arriving at that place, we automatically become a rainbow. We recognize, we realize ourselves as curtains of light. It's totally important to understand in our practice that in our lives, in growing as a human being, we have to take in everything, take in all of the diversity and all of the experience and everything that is both pleasurable and painful. and continuously transmute the cycles of pleasure and pain into a vision of ourself that goes way beyond the body and way beyond the mind and way more refined than human existence, to see into, the timeless, spaceless, extraordinary vibrancy from which beauty arises and is expressed as all of livingness. I have been blessed with many unusual and extraordinary experiences, some edgy experiences. I've been blessed with the opportunity to see into diversity in ways that growing up in Connersville, Indiana, it never dawned on me. Wouldn't have dawned on me in 1,000 years. I've had the opportunity to engage in pleasure and pain in ways that I never would have expected, except that my life just laid it right there in front of me and I didn't know what to do, except to do what I always do. And in this embracing of pleasure and pain, I have learned something very, very profound and deep about myself and about this life, which, has supported me continuously in my experience of constant refinement and transformation. The mind is a very tricky thing, When we feel pain and when we feel pleasure, we automatically identify it with something outside us. Right? Well, especially when we feel pain, we want to know the cause and we want to get rid of it. But what if everything is the goddess? And what if, and this is suggested in many of the books of quantum physics, and certainly, and this is a notion that is embraced by some Buddhist schools, that there is nothing outside us. That everything that we experience is a projection of our own mind, and we only see what our mind wants us to see that supports our survival, and we don't ever really see what's actually happening here. What if there is no outside? Then we can't start blaming our pain on something else. We can't find the source of it and eliminate it. We can't solve the problem because there isn't one. There is no problem. And that means that the pain that we feel then is really not a bad thing. It is this extraordinary vibrancy of life itself. It is the goddess transforming, changing us, shifting everything around in us in order that we can see more deeply who we really are. Rudy used to say life has to be consumed whole with all its joy and its pain. I look out at the world and see, I'm all of this. I'm every bit of it. I am every place. I am every person. I am everything. I am. And all of the hurt that exists in the world is also a hurt that's happening in me. And while sometimes that's completely excruciating and almost too much for anybody to bear, holding an unwavering space of loving devotion for life, for your own life and life itself, leads to the experience of enlightenment, a radical, outrageous, loving enlightenment that is experienced through the body-mind, that is experienced in the body-mind. And in this body-mind, we live this, for the time that this body has to be. We experience all the things that the body experiences, not as, impure or evil or whatever, like, whatever the Christians or the Brahmins or the whoever says whatever. Everything is wonderful. Everything is beautiful. Everything is nourishment. We live in this body appreciating all the different flavors, and at the end of the day, we become complete, and this body falls away, and what endures is that rainbow-colored energy field that is our essence. I'm alluding to the rainbow body accomplishment that's discussed in Dzogchen texts. Let's not be afraid of pain. Let's not try to avoid pain. Let's not, try to blame anything. Let's decouple our minds, from the causes of pain. Because whatever your mind is telling you is not true. That's just what the mind does. The mind shreds. Let's live in loving acceptance of ourselves, loving acceptance of our life, however crazy it is, loving acceptance of, our childhoods, loving acceptance of, both our gifts and our limitations, loving acceptance of everything. And in the hurt that arises in the space of that loving acceptance, let us allow the goddess to do her work and transform us into the saints that we aspire to be. Not saints by definition of ordinary religion, because that's baloney, but saints in the sense that we are completely pure at heart, completely pure, and experiencing all the wonders of this world as a single flavor. Any non-dualistic teaching cannot exclude the body. This body is an expression of divinity in this world. This body and this mind are one. Drink it in. Enjoy it. And sometimes when it hurts, enjoy that too. Through the practice of contact, alignment, and flow, through the practice of activating the chakras in the ways that I've taught you, all pain is transformed into joy and beauty. Namaste.